welcome to what is a bit of a different video for the DuckSport channel. Decided to do a Q&A video because there was a few common questions coming up, and threw it open to you guys as well. See if there's anything particularly you wanted to know, and a number of you responded with some really good questions. So I'll cut straight to those and we'll work through and answer all of your questions. So the first question that came up was, what's the difference between a 100E and a Prefect? The answer is nothing. A Prefect is a 100E. So 100E refers to that particular chassis code, and it covered both the Anglia and the Prefect of that model. And the Anglia basically was the 2-door, the Prefect was the 4-door. There were some other variations to that. I'm sure there were some spec level differences between the Anglia and the Prefect, but biggest difference, Anglia 2-door, Prefect 4-door. Things get a little bit confusing then with the 107E. So the 107E was a later version of the Prefect, and that was the sort of the run-out model. It was the car that was sold at the same time as the later 105E Anglia, and so that would have been the Harry Potter Anglia, as most people know it. But the 107E was sold at the same time, then as a slightly cheaper model car. So my car is a 1958 100E Ford Prefect. Now, some of you are probably now thinking the same as a lot of other people seem to think on the internet, but your car has 2 doors, that must make it an Anglia. But it's not. Look closer and you'll see that my car is actually a 4-door, it's just had the rear doors welded up. And I'll put a little clip in here that shows you the hinges and also the inside of the rear doors.
There you go, you can see the top hinge of the rear door there, the bottom hinge of the rear door, on the side, and from inside you can see that's the door. So it's just been welded up around here, and obviously that's why the gutter rail has been removed at the same time.
So the next question, why did you break the kit car for parts rather than sell it complete? Pretty simple really. It was worth a lot more in parts and worth a lot more to me in parts. So obviously I've kept the turbo Pinto setup, I've kept the gearbox, kept a few other little bits and pieces of it as well, but those two things made up really the largest portion of the value of that car, which I know might sound odd, but it was a Robin Hood monocoque chassis, not ever going to be worth a lot anyway, and then obviously I butchered it quite a lot. I'd got the weird looking body on it that wasn't finished, so it just made most sense to strip it down for parts, sell off all the bits that were valuable to other people, mostly being the Ford donor parts. Somebody bought the chassis, so all in all, I probably got more back for the bits that I sold of the car, and that allowed me to keep my Pinto and my gearbox, then I would have got selling the car complete. So it was just a no-brainer. I could have built it back into another kit car, bought another engine and gearbox and put that in, but by the time I'd spent all that money, I probably have only got back for the complete car what it cost me to do that work. So again, it just wasn't worth it. Hopefully that car will live on. The person who's bought the chassis will maybe do something with it, but that's down to them. So following on nicely from why did I break the kit car for parts, why did I replace it with a Prefect? The answer to that is because it was available. So, as I explained in the video when I announced that I was getting rid of the kit, and again when I went to go and pick up the Prefect shell, I wasn't particularly looking for a Prefect. I wasn't particularly looking for anything. I had a few ideas in mind that I was discussing with Steve Walford Motorsport, who obviously I've been working with on this project and on previous projects. And the idea was to get something tin top, with a full roll cage, or fit a full roll cage, and make something a bit different that was going to be safer but still lightweight, that I could put the Pinto turbo setup in and go drag racing with. The reason I didn't want to do that with the Robin Hood was because it was a monocoque. It was already ridiculously heavy for the type of car that it was, and I would have had to make it a lot heavier again to actually make it as safe as I wanted it to be. While just browsing Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Auto Trader, all of that, looking for just potential, what's it out there kind of things. Throwing ideas around with Steve at Steve Wolf Motorsport. This Ford Prefect pops up, X-Drift car, fully caged, set up for 4-link, absolutely everything that we could need it to be, and it was, in my mind, cheap. So I sent the link over to Steve, and the response I got was, yeah, let's do that. And that was just, the final sort of thing that I needed to say, yeah, let's go and have a look at this. When I saw it, it was as good as I expected it to be. So the deal was done, and put the nail in the coffin of the kit. There you go. So why Prefect? Because it looked cool and it was available. Next question is, what will you use the car for when it's complete? So I've kind of already answered that. I want to go drag racing. So there is a series that I'll be competing in, the Modified 100E Challenge. Unfortunately, obviously with everything's going on this year, it doesn't look like there's going to be many rounds of that, if any, this year. And that's fine, it gives me time to actually get the car finished. But as well as that, I do want it to be a street car. I still want to go out and do car things with my friends. Go do the road trips in Wales, all that sort of stuff. So it's got to be a road car. It is road legal and will continue to be road legal for as long as I can possibly see into the future. But I do absolutely want to go drag racing. It's something that really appeals to me, and I just want to go fast. So yeah, drag racing and fun street car. Next question is, what clutch will you be using? I have to say, there is a little bit of a story here. So it is the same clutch and cover plate setup that I was using in the kit car, and I'd love to tell you what make it all is, but I can't, because I don't know. The story here goes that I was having a look around to see what clutch options there were, and as you do a search on eBay as well as for all the proper parts suppliers, and up popped an auction for somebody that was clearing out parts for a company that had gone into liquidation, and they had this 4-puck ceramic clutch. There was an X-display unit with the cover plate that, based on all the dimensions and everything that they'd given, sounded very much like it was for a Pinto. And so I watched the auction, and it was going very cheap. So I chucked a bid in, and I won. And it was a Pinto ceramic clutch and cover plate. Now, from what I can tell, it appears that it was all made by Borg & Beck. Borg & Beck don't list Pinto ceramic clutches and suitable cover plates, so who they actually made it on behalf of, I don't know. Or whether they used to make them and don't anymore. But yeah, so it's a 4-puck ceramic clutch, matching cover plate. Hopefully it can handle the 300 brake horsepower long term. It handled it on the dyno, so fingers crossed that will be okay. Of course, we're turning it up on this new turbo, so hopefully it will handle that. If it doesn't, maybe we'll have to look to get one made in the future. And on that, I will take recommendations. I've spoken to one company before now who are happy to get involved, but if you guys know anybody that you can recommend for custom clutches, give me a shout. How do you think the curb weight will compare to the kit car? This is a really interesting question, and it's one I've pondered actually quite a lot. So the Robin Hood was actually really heavy. It was, I think, somewhere like 750 to 800 kilos without me in it. That's because, one, it was a stainless steel monocoque chassis, so that made it heavy for that type of car anyway. And then it had got, obviously, all the Ford Sierra rear axle, and that weighs a metric ton on its own. Obviously, the Pinto setup and all the rest of it. So, all in all, it was a pretty heavy car. The 100E, on the other hand, brand new from the factory, was, I think, under 740 kilos. I've got something like 737 in my head. So that's light. That's, at least as light, if not lighter, than the kit car when it came out of the factory. But obviously, that had a lighter axle, lighter engine setup, but it also had steel boot and bonnet. I've got 5-glass boot and bonnet. it had a full interior. I don't. But I've got a full roll cage. So I'm kind of doing the Fact Packet best guesstimate. I'm hoping it comes out around the original weight, and so around the weight of the kit car. But I could be completely wrong. So I'm curious to get it on the weigh bridge and see what it actually weighs once it's all done. So keep an eye on a future video. Once the car's on the road, I will get it weighed and we'll see what it comes out at. What does the 10% sticker mean? Okay, so this is in reference to the 10% sticker on the roof just above the windscreen, and was something I had to reach out to the previous owner of the car to get an explanation for, because I actually didn't know. So I'm just going to cut to a clip that I recorded earlier of me outside in the garage of the car that explains that and a few other stickers.
I didn't know the answer to what that actually was about, so I reached out to the previous owner of the car and asked him. He told me it's to do with an incident that happened when they were away on drift competition. And at these drift competitions, they all sort of camp over in the pits. And a few of them had a few too many rums and a bit of a late night. And they were deemed the 10% that didn't keep to the quiet pit ruling. And so they took it on as a bit of a joke and became the 10%. And because I expect some other questions will arise out of this on some of the other stickers, primarily these two, the Insurgent sticker, I am going to put a link to a video in the description and probably up here. To the guy that sent this to the owner of the previous car, and all should make sense. And safety third is to do with the 24 hour of lemons. Now, if you know what the 24 hour of lemons is, that should make total sense. If you don't, I would definitely recommend doing a Google search for 24 hour of lemons, and particularly if you can, watch the roadkill videos on 24 hour of lemons, because I think it gives you a really good idea of what that whole event is about.
Okay, so next question then. The interior is rather black. Thank you for noticing, you've been watching closely. Do you think fitting a decent interior light might be a good idea? Yes. Yes, I do. I have some ideas for that. I haven't done any wiring for them yet, but there is space in the fuse box for it. So keep an eye out. Are you keeping the logos that appear on the car, or will the duck appear? Yes and no. Yes, I'm keeping some of the stickers, but not all of them. Will the duck appear? Definitely, but in what context at the moment, I'm not sure. So that's very much still up for debate. Mostly, me convincing the other half whatever I intend to do isn't going to look rubbish. But in all seriousness, there's going to be a change to the stickers. The DuckSport logo will definitely appear somewhere on the outside of the car. We'll just have to wait and see where. Why did you decide to turbo the Pinto? What was the motivation? Somebody that knows me asked this, I think. I can't remember who asked these questions, but that's got to have come from somebody that knows me. The main motivation was I was pissed off with seeing people answer the question, what should I do to get more horsepower out of my Pinto, with replace it with a Z-Tech? Why? The Pinto is such a cool, tunable engine. The biggest problem in this country is we tune it wrong. It doesn't. It is not an engine that responds well to naturally aspirated tuning, and for some reason, all we seem to do is stick a Kent FR32 cam in it, and a set of bike carbs, get 125 horsepower, and think that's it. And so the original motivation was, could I make more horsepower for less money than it cost to fit an FR32 and bike carbs? And the answer was very much yes. So I spent just a few £100 on the initial build, and I made on the dyno about 150 brake horsepower on a stock Ford ECU, and it was hilarious. I did then fit a Mega Square, which I think even with that, actually, I was under the cost of the FR32 and bike carbs, and at that setup, I never actually had it on the rolling road because I just road tuned it at that point. But given the boost I was running and what it made on boost before, that got to have been approaching sort of 200 horsepower, and that is a well-known figure for a turbo Pinto at that sort of boost. So you can make ridiculous power out of Pintos if you tune them right, and it was kind of just make that point, and then I loved it. And then I got talked into doing silly things like full engine build, so now the only thing stock on that engine is the block. But then I've now got a 300 brake horsepower Pinto without it even braking a sweat, and I can fit a bigger turbo on it that's going to make even more than that. So, and actually, although that sounds like it's a ridiculous thing to have done, it would have cost me the same to be able to build a Z-Tech or pretty much any other inline four-cylinder that I could have fitted, or even V6, that would have gone into that car that I had at the time. It would have cost me that kind of money to do it. I would have had to do the same kind of modifications. And actually, because the Pinto is such a common engine, because it's got parts sharing with the Cosworth YB engine, there was quite a few things I was able to do and get that made it a very cheap engine build. I can't and won't go into the figures on what that cost to build, but put it this way, my transmission cost me more. Can you make it do wheelies? I really, really hope so. The main concern with doing wheelies will be what brakes first when I get enough traction to do wheelies. And then if nothing brakes doing the wheelie, what brakes when I stop doing the wheelie? But, yeah. If I do, you'll know about it here first. Are you going to be keeping the red headlights? As much as I would love to keep the red headlights, and to be honest, the reason they're not off there yet is because I really don't want to have to remove them. Unfortunately, due to UK road laws, I am going to have to remove them and fit traditional white headlights. Now, I could refit them for shows, but that's a lot of work and going to ruin my headlight alignment every time I have to put the normal ones back on for road use. I have got a plan for being able to have red lights at shows and quickly convert back to clear for the road, but we'll have to wait and see on that. When she's ready to race, what shows will we be taking it to? With the world as it is at the moment, I wish I could give you an answer to that, but until things have calmed down and we know when shows are going to be back on, I can't give a realistic answer. The only thing I can say is that, as I said earlier in the video, I will be taking part in the modified 100E challenge, so any event where there's a round of that taking place, I'm hoping to be at. What are your racing plans? Run what you've brung, track days, entering any competitions? So, yeah, as I mentioned, we'll be taking part in the modified 100E challenge. We'll also hopefully do some other run what you brung at other shows at Santa Pod, and probably be going to static shows as well, things like the Hot Rod Show at Stoney Park and others throughout the year. So I'll try and make sure that people who are interested know what shows I'm going to be at via my social media pages. So if you don't already, make sure you give me a like on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll be sharing details there of what shows I'll be attending. So the next one came in from Tom Simpson, also known as Rusty Slider, previous owner of the car, and he wants to know if he can see if the car still drifts when I'm done. Give me a chance to make at least one full clean pass without anything breaking, and maybe we'll see what we can do about that. So everyone, thank you for submitting all your questions. It's been great answering them all for you. If you'd like me to do another one of these in the future, make sure you leave some comments with questions in them, and I will see what I can do. But for now, thank you for watching, and if you did enjoy the video and don't already subscribe, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell next to it, as well as giving this video a thumbs up.